Talk to him, Dash.
Cheddar cheese, grits, Sunday morning, I can feel it. Mama stuck a whole fist plus a foot up in that skillet. Daddy cut that bread short, I can't get past the aroma. Got a skateboard waiting on me, I be bending corners on it, yeah. Back when every neighbor had that real affection. I was talking back sagging probably 10, 11. Mrs. 50 caught me slipping, went and told the reverend. And somehow the whole village taught this child a lesson. We succeed together, so that mean we fall together. Quarantining, you ain't ghosting, I just called to check 'em. We don't kick it no more, let's go back to David Beckham. You see the beauty in my eyes, yeah, that's your reflection. Don't be too proud to pull up, rock with you the long way. If your money on delay, just hold something, tell you straight. Universal love letter on display. Never bail out on your people, cause together we gon' make it.
Don't know what the future holds inside, but long days and long nights.
Yeah.
We gon' have some heartbreak too. And me don't know what we gon' do, but love me and love you.
Yeah.
Together we gon' make it through. Together we gon' make it, babe.
Not used to having much, drinking water from the spigot, but we had a lot of love. I was lemonade, sipping fresh squeeze from the yard, and that was free 99. Whole Foods, they hit you on the head for more than what you buy. Pay the price if it's natural. Her long hair natural. Struggles coming naturally. I can't turn my back on you. White, yellow, black, or blue, we all beneath the stars. And that seam still was stitching that's made a human collage. I retired the facade, apply what's on my mind. You can't give what you would not supply. Empathy's in order, it's contagious. Way from Abu Dhabi all the way to California. Life is something precious, yours is a blessing. We make up a body so we deal with pain together. We gon' overcome, baby, sit on top that weather. I won't let you drown in it, just keeps for the flood. It's gon' wash away the evil till we left with only love.
I don't know what the future.
Yes, man. Welcome, elite entrepreneurs and empire builders and franchisors. Man, I am so pumped for today's interview for really a couple of reasons. The main one is because this is going to be different than any other interview Fran Opps Live that we've done. A lot of times I'm bringing in showman brands and bringing in CEOs of exciting opportunities for people to look at investing into with the next chapter of their life. This one is going to be different because this one I'm actually flipping the script. So not so much necessarily for current individuals looking to become a franchisee, but for those that are you franchisors that are looking for, man, how do we grow and build this business? What are some of the tools and resources and outlets and networks that we can utilize to kind of help either a strap on or help boost and put us on a trajectory of growth that could really be game changing? And to work with incredible consultants like Fran Opps. My goodness. What an opportunity. And so today we have the pleasure, the true joy of bringing in the CEO of Business Alliance Incorporated, Brandon Clifford, who I'm excited for him to share a little bit of his story because he's been in franchising a long time. In fact, a few weeks ago, we interviewed one of the VPs for Homewell, which is one of the brands that Brandon actually came out of. And now Homewell is a couple years in a row now is the number one brand in BAI's portfolio. And the guy that was a big part of jump starting that is now the CEO of BAI. And he's continuing to build just like he does, but he's building BAI to be the best broker network that it can possibly become. And so I'm excited for him to unpack how they do that. The network of people and resources that they provide to franchisors and consultants alike. And so I'm just excited for you to hear his heart for people. And it's been truly a joy being able to get to know him and to work alongside him into helping people franchise their futures. That's what we're all about here at Fran Opps. And so without further ado, let's bring in Brandon to the group.
I believe in authentic communication, authentic connection is how you do business today. And vulnerability and authenticity is what wins.
Brandon, my man, welcome to the greatest Facebook group on the metaverse. Welcome.
What's up, Jared? I've heard, this is the greatest. It's a really hot group going on out here, huh?
It is. It's actually really exciting. It's full of, this group is chock full of people literally from all over the world. And so I've been able to connect with a ton of entrepreneurs and future business owners, as well as franchisors. And so I was excited to bring you in and get you on the calendar for that very purpose, to work with those that, own a franchise. And they want to, how do they get their opportunity, their service to people across the country or across the world and beyond. And so I thought, who better to help offer that kind of help to them than the one and only Brandon Clifford. So,
well, thank you. I'm very humbled in you saying that. I hopefully we can, give some nuggets of wisdom or whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, what's interesting about franchising, just to kind of, kick it off here a little bit, like franchisors, a lot of people don't understand, even if they have like 25, 30, 40 locations, right? 100 locations, even probably up to 75 or 100, that's still very much as a small business owner, right? Like that's someone who's like growing a company, they're still, out there. Oftentimes the founder is still like heavily involved, what I mean, up to 50 units or whatnot. And so a lot of people don't think about it. They're like, oh, they have 10 locations, they have 20 locations, they must be this big mega giant, right? But no, and I think that it's it's a cool model where you're like, it's very personal because you're kind of like giving away a piece of yourself every time. If you're the founder, right, you're like giving away
a baby
every time you award a franchise to someone. So it's just very nuanced. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, so it's a hard thing to navigate, right?
Absolutely. So tell us then a little bit about BAI. Who is it? What is BAI and what does it do?
Yeah, so BAI, well, we're a franchise professionals network, right? So we are comprised of 3 different types of members. We have brokers or consultants like yourself, or independent agents that are out there helping individuals find franchises, right? Playing matchmakers. We have suppliers, so those are like companies that are part of the franchise industry and they support the franchise sales process. So everything like CRM platforms, lead generators, lenders, franchise attorneys, anything that has to do with the franchise sales process, there's probably a company out there that supports it. And then a big component of it is, of course, franchise brands, right? So, a lot of times, people, the reason why they invest into a franchise is because they want some sort of a proven business model, but also some sort of brand recognition. But that's a little bit, I think, misleading in some ways because, if it's a brand that's like really, really well known and sold out across the country, there's no territory available, so you can't invest in it. Right? But what it really is, it's like a well thought out brand that has had success in similar demographics and similar markets than you can bring to your space, right? And so organizations like that, really like being part of our network because they get to have the warm introduction from a consultant such as yourself, who's working with a candidate who's very serious, who maybe has never heard of this company, but knows, they're going to be a good fit for that brand based on their skill set, their background, all that kind of stuff, right? And they can play matchmaker.
Right. Yeah, it's so good. And I think that you're spot on with brand fit. And we talk about that all the time on these Fran Opps Live, that it is like, and I tell the clients I work with that more important than brand name is brand fit. Are you a good fit for them, and are they a good fit for you? Because like I've seen McDonald's close. We have a Burger King just down the road here that closed. And so the brand name is not the be all end all, right? It's
no. And like the value of the network, I think gets kind of swept away in that. I mean, like because what a franchise really is, it's a lot like what BAI is, it's a network of like-minded individuals that you want to be connected with to elevate each other, And so it's kind of like, if you were going to open up, in your intro, you were talking about home care, right? A home care business, and you were going to just be Jared's Home Care, right? And you picked up the phone and you called Brandon's Home Care all the way across the country in Nashua and asked me for advice on how to run your home care agency. I'd be like, who are you? And I'd hang up on you, right? But if you and I are both part of the same network of the same, whether it's HomeWell or Home Watch Caregivers or one of the other home senior care brands that are out there, right? And you picked up the phone and you called me as a fellow HomeWell owner, I'd be like, hey, Jared, I'd love to help you, and I give you advice, right? And so value of the network's huge.
Yeah, for sure. Brag on BAI a little bit. I have reasons. I have my own reasons why I think they're the greatest broker network available. But you tell us, what are some of the metrics or measurements of success you can show BAI has been.
Well, what I think really makes BAI special, and what I got started as a BAI broker. Actually, I was sitting in your shoes, almost 15, 16 years ago at this point, I guess. And that's how I got into franchising. And yeah, I mean, BAI, what's really special is that it's never been about us, right? Even like that video that you showed in the intro, right? I'm the CEO, and I don't even know if I'm in that. I mean, maybe for a very small second, right? It's all about you all. It's all about our network. It's about our brands. It's about our brokers. It's about our suppliers, and we want to feature them, right? We're a platform. We are a platform for all these different business owners to get together and do business with each other to grow franchising, elevate franchising really, and create an amazing, buying experience or investment experience, whatever you want to call it, due diligence experience for these potential franchisees, because that's really what's super important. I mentioned, like for a franchisor, it's a very emotional sale, right? Because they're giving away a piece of themselves. For a potential franchisee, it's a very emotional buy. Like this is the largest investment that a lot of people ever make is a business.
Huge.
It's a huge deal. So having like the third party trusted advisor who's been like coached and trained on how to do this the right way, to where that franchisee feels like, okay, I signed this franchise agreement. I didn't just get razzle dazzle. I didn't just get pushed through a sales funnel. I actually did my homework. So now this is the starting line. Right. My business is not the finish line. Right. So, and we kind of like to be in the background, kind of putting all those pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So then, okay, so BI works with how many franchisors does BI work with?
We have 360 brands in our network currently, just shy of, like 365, 362, something. It's, it's always moving. I mean, that's one thing that I think why brokers like being a part of our network. Is we're constantly monitoring the brands too, right? I mean, like,
tell us more about that, because there's what 4,000 plus some franchise opportunities out there. I've heard.
I think it's close to 8,000 at this point, registered with the Federal Trade Commission, right?
Okay, and so there's 360 some in the network. So, like, what kind of franchisors is BI looking for? And can you talk more about that process too, of like what it looks like to become part of the BI network?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking to evaluate our network, right? We want brands that are obviously good business models, right? Like ones that are going to be profitable, that they care about their franchisees and are, stressing unit economics, but they also have to have a growth mindset and have territory available. Because I mean, if you're talking to a candidate who is serious and and wants to get into business for themselves, but there's no turf available, then that doesn't help them, right? So it is kind of a something we have to always kind of look at. And then also, we're not really, I don't believe volume. I think volume in most things is kind of it's just noise, right? I think quality is much more better, much more important than quantity. So we're measuring kind of like, okay, we don't need 75 home care brands. Right. We don't need
out there. There are that many
100 fried chicken concepts, right? But let's try to continue to mix it up to where we have a little bit of something for everyone. But we're always looking to tweak it, and then also measure the number of brands to the number of coaches and brokers and consultants we have, right? Because I mean, if we only have 125, which is about what we have right now,
125 brokers.
Yeah, in that range, you know what I mean? So, I mean, for an individual to become you don't need to be an expert in all 360 brands, right? But you're going to have a pocket that you can focus on. So, until we have, we have to make sure we're always keeping those ratios intact. So the process that we go through, essentially it's an initial phone call, right? With one of our representatives from BAI, who will kind of just get to know the brand, see what their understanding is of franchising, just kind of look at the network and say, okay, is there a need for another coffee franchise? Is there a need for another whatever industry it is franchises? If yes, there's a need, then we have the brand complete an application, which gets us some just general information. And then we take them through what's called the selection committee. Okay. So we have like a 20-point inspection that we go through that has to do with items on their FDD that we look at, litigation, item 7, item 19, things like that. We the strength of their Fran dev team, like their responsiveness, you know,
Sure.
like we're measuring
Yep.
like things like that are going to be important to our coaches, to our consultants, right? And then based on like that score, it's a scorecard essentially they fill out. If they have to get at least an 85 or better on that scorecard to even be presented to the selection committee, and then they go to a selection committee, which is comprised of 5 individuals.
Okay.
And it, you know, we meet frequently, and you know, typically at least every other week, because we have brands that are always coming in, so we can get around to them quickly and give it a yay or nay, right? And if it's not a you know, majority vote, then we say no, you know. And so, I mean, and I would say that, you know, 3 to 4 brands get to the selection committee a month, you know, and we're probably, you know, I mean, what are we bringing in? What, like maybe, you know, 4 or 5 a quarter. But it's not like we're like just starving for new brands. It's got to be the right fit, right?
Right. Are there any like specific industries that you would love to see like more brands in the space or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that at the end of the day, franchising covers so many different verticals.
Yeah.
You know, that it's you know, I mean, there's a business model for everything out there. That it's not like we are targeting, you know, one specific space right now. But one thing that I've seen like really kind of make a big comeback in the last few months, like I don't know, probably like 6 or 8 months, is a lot of the like beverage concepts, you know, that are out there. It seems like there's a lot like coffee, tea, you know, even smoothies, like things like that. And we only have a handful in our, I mean, I think there's like 3 in that range.
We have some really good ones, but
really solid. And I'm not trying to go against any of them, but there's I'm not going to call out a name, but there's one actually that's based here in New Hampshire. I know them very well. They have a great footprint already. Like we've been working with them to try to get them to come on board. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's you know, there's been kind of a resurgence in that space. The other thing that I would love to see us get into is a little bit more of the like experiential type models out there, like the bigger. Like you're seeing a lot of these like
I see what you're saying.
Like Sky Zone type stuff, and you know, so that's an area that we're slightly lacking in, but it's a moving target. You know, it's something that my team, you know, a great team. Christina McGarvey is the one who really kind of keeps the pulse on that. And then we're also talking to people like you, and you know, a lot of our brands come from a referral from a broker that's in our network.
Yeah. And a lot of them are going to come from the greatest Facebook group in the metaverse. So that's exciting. You mentioned experiential ones, which is cool because actually next week I'm interviewing Exit 4 escape rooms, which I think just recently came into our portfolio too, but I'm excited to put that opportunity
out. We did a deal with them in the first 6 months, I believe, too. Just the first one just got close.
I love it. That's so good. So then, okay, tell us then a little bit about, like, I love the scorecard mindset that, or the philosophy behind that. That makes total sense. And I love just the intentionality behind the vetting process that brings me as a consultant comfort when I present these brands to the people I'm working with, knowing these have gone through kind of this like qualification process themselves. I'm not going to show you just any, you know, Joe Blow franchise out there. Like these are trusted people we work with. And so that brings comfort in that whole process as well. But so what is the investment itself? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what does the investment opportunity look like for a franchisor if they're interested in joining the BI network? And what does that investment get them?
Sure. So we're getting into numbers on this. I like it. Right.
Let's do it. That's what we're here for, to learn and maybe see.
So to join the network, you know, as a franchise brand, you know, there's 2 different options. You can come in as a premium franchisor, you know, or you can come in as a listed brand, right? And so, you know, we just like I talked about quality versus quantity, we actually limit the number of premium brands every single year because that includes some different, you know, offerings and we can only service. We have to make sure we can give, you know, value.
If everyone's premium, then nobody's premium.
Right? Yeah. You know, so we cap that at 120 brands a year, right? We have like I said, about 120, 125 brokers. We keep 120 brands, right? You know, premium brands, right? And part of that is it's tied to conference, right? We have a big annual conference that was in that video that you were showing at the beginning. You know, so we try to get the whole network together for that. And again, we want really good ratios at that. So that's one of the reasons we want to make it very, you know, intimate, right? Where you can have some really good one-to-one connection. So, but I'll get to that in a second. So like the first year, you know, just getting on board, plus that, like, you know, selection committee review, there's some legal aspects that happen, you know, contracts, building your listing page, all that kind of stuff. So there's an upfront fee for a new brand to join. That's $3,600, I believe.
Okay.
Christina might get mad at me if I misquoted that, but
It's just a flat rate though, right?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah,
that
that's
a
like your
monthly
first.
rate?
Yeah, that's your first upfront, like just to kind of get going.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then your annual listing fees, which kind of keeps up your back office page, all that kind of stuff, right? And just keeps you as a part of the network. That is $1,200 a year. Okay. So that's to just be part of the network. Right.
Right. Like comparatively though, that seems really low. Like, I don't know the numbers on other.
Well, the point is that you pay you're going to pay commissions when the deals get closed, right? And so that's where that's the beauty of being a part of a network like this is that
right.
I mean, you still have to put in the effort, you still have to put in the work, but it's very results driven, right? And so the more deals you close, the more revenue comes into the network because of the work. So and that's our listed partners. So and the listed franchise brands, it's kind of like one of the, which works for a lot of companies. It's like, okay, you're in the network, now go get them. Right now, like, no offense, but we don't do a ton of support for those listed brands because they're a higher volume, 260 of them or whatever, right? It's not the 120 premium brands, right? So it's more like they have a listing in the back office page. They get a launch plan, right, where we're going to promote them to our consultants. We're going to, kind of get them off the ground very quickly the first couple months, but then it's up to them. They got to be doing the outreach. They got to be showing up, to the webinars and, putting their best face forward to get the referrals coming in. Now, if you're a premium member, it's a little bit more customized, right? So that's $9,000 a year. Okay. So big difference there, right? But it also includes one person can come to conference, which there's huge value for that. You've been to those conferences.
It's massive. The value you get from conference on both sides of it, any side of it, even because I know inside this group too, we have people who would be resource partners in the network too, that there's so much value there. Yeah.
So I mean, you come to conference, you also get there's four like specific virtual events that we do just for our premium members and our brokers, right? So again, it's more like boutique, you're just a much more, connected, like kind of done for you in terms of like communication with our brokers, if you're a premium member, as opposed to just signing up to have a web, a sub page on our website, so to speak. You know what I mean? So
right.
And then we're doing different things. We rolled out like a community hub this year, similar to the metaverse here, but it's just for the BI network. It's called Fran Link. So it's an app on your phone and on your desktop as well, where you can do one-to-one messaging. You can post in a news feed. There's different interest groups and things like that we're going to launch. Even the goal is to hopefully maybe having some like book clubs and like little cool things like that to kind of enhance the community, right? The community aspect of it. And hopefully also like the franchisors. One thing that's important to me, I'm a big believer in education and like iron sharpens iron. So we even have some like franchisor specific like trainings on like, best practices, for lead generation, for calling leads, but then also working with broker leads versus web leads, like things like that. Cause it's two different sales processes. And a lot of brands don't get that. They try to take this lead from someone like you, and then they stuff it into the same funnel that this random website lead comes into. Right. And they wonder why your lead gets annoyed and doesn't return their call. It's like, well, I'm working with Jared. You know what I mean? So like it has to be a different process when it comes to your referrals, because these are referrals, these are not leads, and you can't treat a referral like a lead. You have to treat a referral like gold, like we all know.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's so good. Do you have any then? So okay, we've talked about the investment, what it looks like, the opportunity itself, what the process of becoming a part of the BI network is. Can you tell us like what do you have any success stories? Like do you have any like proof of this concept? Can you think of any brands or stories of like, here's what this has done for this brand? I don't know.
Yeah. And one more thing, I guess, just to button up the investment, just to make sure that there's no confusion. So then there's also there's commissions that get paid. Typically it's and we talk about that when they're coming in, we make sure that they're going to pay our affiliates because you guys do a lot of work on the front end to get these candidates to where they're the average sales cycle for a franchise to close is probably like 6 months off the street. Brokers probably more like 90 days. So it's going to cut your sales cycle in half.
Much quicker.
It's lower volume, but it's a much higher quality, candidate. So somewhere between 40 and 60% of the franchise fee is what we usually look to try to negotiate for our brokers to get as a commission. So that's your other investment, but that's only happens when the deal's closed.
Right.
And along those lines, I mean, sure, I could pull a lot of success stories, and I saw it myself when I was a franchisor. That the franchisees that come from broker referrals end up being more long-term and better franchise owners. I think it's because launching a business is stressful. It's hard, it's challenging. It's not only one of the most like high-end investments like we talked about that you'll make in your life, but it's like a commitment. It's like a marriage, right? Like you're married to this thing, when you're launching your business for the first, year, and then each year it gets a little bit lower as you go on. That doesn't really get easier. It's more just the challenges are different.
It's different. Yeah, that's right.
It just gets different, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that to scare anyone. It's just, it's true. And I think, and the reason why the franchisees that come from a broker referral is that the brokers, the consultants that are working with these individuals, they knock out all the cobwebs, right? They help them feel like, because what happens whenever you're doing something hard and you're you haven't got past that point of critical mass, you kind of question yourself. You're like, it's like you're on a hike and you get to this first summit and it's a beautiful view, but you're not at the top of the mountain yet. And you're like, do I have enough daylight to get all the way to the top of the mountain? Maybe I should turn around and go back, right? You start to second guess yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so the referrals like that come from brokers, they're ready to go. Right. So they don't second guess themselves during the launch process. So they usually hit the ground faster, they get open faster, they become royalty producing faster, and you have less failures. And I guess one specific success story, it was funny. I was actually talking to the chief growth officer of a family of brands I guess I could probably say it, Neighborly. Last November, they were up here in Boston. I went to one of their events. Neighborly is a great company too. I mean,
incredible. Yeah.
Just fantastic franchise organization.
We've had a couple of their brands on and a franchisee, at least one franchisee.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to get into a home service space, I mean, like you can't go wrong with a Neighborly brand. I mean, like they're but anyway. So this is a Neighborly.
Calm down, Resi people. Calm down.
Yeah. This is a Neighborly commercial. Well, the hard thing about Neighborly, they don't have a lot of territory, so Resi.
That's true. That's true.
But anyway, but I was talking to them, and he was like, "Just so you know, we're all in on brokers." And I was like, "Oh, well, why is that?" Yeah. And he was like, "We just ran the numbers," and he's like, franchisees that came from brokers, 5 years later, 85% of them are still in business today. He's like, ones that came from the website, only 50%.
Oh, wow. Yeah. They're thinking even down the road as far as business
So like they're still the owners. And it didn't mean like doesn't mean those other people like failed, quote unquote, but they like sold their business. They just, again, like they didn't finish the race, right? They weren't the long-term friend. Because like a business like that, it gets better and better the longer you stay in it, right? And it continues to grow, and you scale, and you hire managers, and managers run it better than you. And, so like that first point of critical mass is your break-even point. 18 months might take, 2 years, depending on the business, something like that. Then your next point is like, okay, now I'm earning like an executive salary. That's usually 3 years, right? Yeah. Then it's like, once you get past that 5-year threshold, that's like okay, I'm now a CEO of a company. I have a team in place, and now I'm looking at buying multiple territory, so like that 5-year plus franchisee, they're also easier to manage and mentor, because they don't need as much, right? So like that's what the franchisors are looking to get, and
that makes sense.
And so like they, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was huge difference. And he was like, so we're all in on brokers.
Well, that reminds me, another one comes to mind too that we've had inside this group, both as a franchisor interview and a franchisee interview, was Four Coverings International. They, I think earlier this year, because of the impact that consultants have for them and with them, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they decided to cut every other form of lead generation. They're not getting leads any other way, except for, because they've gone all in on broker leads. Now, they need to take a lead somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to be diversified, right? With any kind of business, you want to be diversified in your lead flow. But it's funny, I heard the same thing.
BAI only, and that's it.
Well, no, but what I was going to say is, it's funny. I heard the same thing. Actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who's, a manager at a private equity firm last spring. they're a large company. I can't necessarily say the name, and they own a lot of franchise brands as well.
Okay.
Like huge portfolio. And he was like, I'm sick and tired. It actually goes back to what I was talking about with like the lie of quantity, right? Leads, when that's an easy sales trap to fall into. Like, oh, I'm generating 800 leads a month, I must be doing well,
right?
And he's like, I'm sick and tired of this quantity volume lie that all my VPs are falling into. He's like, when we go to these quarterly meetings, they're just pumping me full of these sales data, these lead data numbers. He's like, and I just keep asking them about sales. And he's like, all of our sales are coming from brokers, but all of our leads are coming from the internet. And I'm like, why are we? And they want me to hire a lead qualifier. That's what the brokers can be essentially, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But you have to make sure you treat it the right way. Like, you're not getting leads from brokers. You're getting referrals. What we say matters.
That's so good.
The language is important. And, if you want leads, you'll get leads, and you'll get the same frustration that you get from your web leads. So you might as well just keep spending your money on Google and just get leads. If you want leads, go get leads. If you want referrals, you want quality franchisees that are going to close at a higher rate, then work with a broker network.
Yeah, that's so good. For those that are still on the fence, as we wrap up, why should a franchisor listening today select to invest into BAI over, any of your competitors or other networks or whatever? Why would those on the fence do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, like there's a few other networks out there. What we do a little bit differently, like I said, is we really we don't even call ourselves a broker network, other than because that's what people get. Like I said, we're a franchise professionals network. I'm really striving really hard to be that and be that resource to help improve the franchise sales process by even training and coaching franchise representatives, connecting them with the right suppliers. We have a lot of franchisor specific suppliers that we're bringing in as well, so really being able to serve them, because we are, boutique in a lot of our offerings, and we're honest about capping those numbers. We can provide those kind of more high touch services. Right. But I think, go out there and go ahead and measure, and talk to the franchisors that are doing it, and and go with what you think is going to be the best fit for you, right? But I think that you want to make sure you don't fall in the trap of, if you join referral networks such as BAI, it doesn't mean that referrals are going to just start showing up. You have to put in the work. So make sure you're staffing your department correctly. There's, like I said, 125 roughly franchise brokers that are part of the BAI network. So that, in a sense, means that your one sales rep has potentially 125 referral sources. Can one person really handle 125 referral sources? Maybe, probably, but if you join another network that also has 125, can they handle 250? Can they handle three? What I mean? So think about that. Just like, what's your bandwidth? What's your team's bandwidth? And make sure, because if they're not putting in the effort, if they're not making the outreach and calling the Jareds of the world and the other consultants that are part of the network, to kind of break through the noise, because there's 350 other brands that are vying for their attention as well. You're not going to get referrals, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to see results.
Yeah. That's so good. Man, Brandon, I can't appreciate you enough for doing this and unpacking the opportunity. And friends, if you're watching this right now and you're like, man, I want to learn more. I want to see if this is the right next step for us and our franchise, for our system. This is where we need to go next. Type 2024 in the chat. And because what we'll do is I'll reach out, get connected, and just hear a little bit more about your story. And if that's the right thing for you, I'll connect you. And Brandon, can you remind us, what's the first step, the very first thing that they'll do?
Yeah, so I mean, you have just an initial conversation with a team member at BAI, and the first thing we'll do is we'll look into our inventory and see, do we have, a fit for you, right? Or,
that's fair, because if you have home service, like I'm telling you, home service friends, there's a bunch of you. I don't know how many more that we're taking, but there's a bunch of you out there. But still worth it if you feel like it's something you want to look into.
Yes, and there's always opportunities to get into the queue, because we're not perfect. And sometimes people slip through the cracks, and then we see someone gets dinged for, bad practices or whatever, and we push them out of the network, right? So we're always, measuring and looking at it. I mean, something that our team meets internally about weekly, so.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. So friends, let's start that way, and just have a conversation. It really is based on relationship. You know, I work with some franchisors, and if you're like, I don't want to work with the whole network, but I just want to work with you, Jared, we can do that. It's going to cost you a lot more in the long run, I promise you. And so I'm not going to be as sweet with the contract as a BAI may be, but it's still I can't encourage you enough to be a part of this network. It really is about relationship, and it's kind of like joining a family. Like, it's people who genuinely care about you and your business because if you're in the network, they will believe in you. They'll believe in the service or the product that you are providing to the world, and they want to see success in that same way just as much as you do, at least more than you probably expect them to want to see in that. And so, can't encourage you enough, friends, to get started. 2024 in the chat today. And we'll kind of go from there. Once again, Brandon, genuinely, thank you so much. So much fun spending some time virtually with you. You and I don't normally get. And so that was truly a blessing to me. I'm looking forward to next year's conference, in which case, friends, I have a little bit of a preview of the conference coming up this next year. And it's is it in Vegas or just north of Vegas? But
just
that area, right?
Las Vegas, JW Marriott. Yep.
JW Marriott, man, I cannot wait.
Yeah, any golfers out there? We have a golf tournament at the TPC. You know, going to be happening. Players Championship course. So.
Oh wow, that's gonna be awesome. I better learn how to play golf. But it's gonna be so good. Me coming out of the Midwest, I can't wait to go south.
Conference for franchisors, like I said, be limited to 120 brands, and I think they're already half sold, I believe. So act fast if you want to get into that.
Yep. Act fast right now, 2024 in the chat. We'll get started with you today. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. See you, Brandon.
Thanks, Jared.